Hello, my friends. Welcome back. We've got another series, another two truths and one lie. This one was a little bit more challenging than the last one. I wanted to do that. I wanted to start off with something easy, maybe something that most people would be able to get, and over time get progressively more difficult with it. I want to be more specific over time as well, so have potentially sport specific ones, ones specific to sort of age, gender, any sort of variables that can be controlled within that. I'm gonna look to explore. So with this one, the three questions were posed on my Instagram story. One was that high intensity interval training, also known as HIIT, can improve both aerobic and anaerobic fitness. Okay. Another one was you should always train to failure during strength sessions to maximize your muscle growth. And the last one was training large muscle groups burns more calories than isolating smaller muscle groups. Okay. There was more of an even split, not quite, but I think it was harder for people to see the discrepancy this time, which is good, because that's what I want to do. I want to get people thinking a little bit. I don't want to just be like, oh yeah, that'll be that one, because it makes no sense. I want them to kind of think a little bit and question their own knowledge on strength and conditioning, or just general health and well-being. So I'll start with the two truths. The first truth was that high intensity interval training, or HIIT, can improve both aerobic and anaerobic fitness levels. Okay, now your aerobic and your anaerobic fitness levels are dependent on your aerobic and your anaerobic systems within your body. And over a period of time, certain periods of time, they get triggered based on how long you train for. So anaerobic is more short-term, short bursts. Aerobic is long term. So when you do HIIT, you alternate between your short bursts of effort and your recovery periods, your time off between sets. So when you're doing the work, when you're doing your short bursts, that's when your anaerobic energy system is in play. So you're training that. You're focusing on training that. So over time, you will improve that. But then when you're in those recovery phases, that's your aerobic system being engaged, because you're getting oxygen in, your muscles are able to intake oxygen. When you work in your anaerobic, towards your anaerobic threshold, it means that you can't work for a long time at that, in that state without a buildup of lactic acid. And lactic acid comes through carbon dioxide forming in your muscles. So you need oxygen to clear it out, but your lungs can't operate fast enough to get the oxygen into your muscles to help with that recovery. So that's why when you do high intensity workouts, that's when you get that change. So you've got the anaerobic muscles working overtime almost in your workout, but then your aerobic comes in again, as I say, when you're resting, because your body's able to get that oxygen in and you're going through that process. It's really important with when you do high intensity interval training that you're not using heavy weights, because that's how you injure yourself. A lot of the time HIIT is done with light weights or body weights. You know, if you start trying to bench press, you know, something at high intensity for a long period of time, that's how you get injuries. But that's a completely different kettle of fish. So that was one truth. Okay, only 6% of people thought that was a lie, so that's quite good. The other truth was training large muscle groups burns more calories than isolating smaller muscles. Now, 25% of people who saw that thought that was the lie. And the justification for why it's true is because your large muscle groups, you know, you've got your legs, you've got your back, you've got your chest, they require more energy to work because of their size. And so the number of muscle fibers recruited is going to be larger. Like if you look at your chest and you look at your bicep, your chest is bigger. So it's going to require more effort, okay, which requires more energy, which requires more calories to be taken in, okay, versus if it's just your bicep, it's a smaller muscle, there's going to be far less muscle fibers recruited. So that was an interesting one. You know, so you may find yourself, like those of you that train compound versus isolation exercises, you do your compound exercises, and maybe during the week or later on in the week you're knackered. You know, I speak for myself. I did a heavy deadlifting session last week, and it knackered me for about 2-3 days. It was not ideal. I felt great doing it, but because I was so fatigued, like my muscles, I couldn't go to the gym. So I kind of had like a mini burnout in a way. So it's really important that with those compound lifts, you're managing your load as well, and don't make the mistake that I made, because it was not ideal. I had to kind of move a couple of things around with regards to my training. And I just felt tired. I was tired. I was hungry the whole of last week. So yeah, it's good, but I guess plan for those heavy weeks, and then have your kind of deload week shortly after that. So yeah, truth number 2: training large muscle groups burns more calories than isolating smaller muscles. Excuse me. Now the lie, which 69% of people spotted as the lie, is you should always train to failure during strength sessions to maximize your muscle growth. Now, excuse me, goodness sake, one moment. Now, whilst training to failure can stimulate muscle growth, doing it every session will lead to you being overtrained, and you become fatigued, you become burnt out, and it increases your risk of injury. Whereas I kind of spoke about it just earlier then in the last point, where, you know, if you're kind of balancing the volume of your lifts and your intensity, then you'll probably be able to find that happy medium. I know myself, it's kind of always ongoing. I think when you're working with a client from a coaching perspective, when you're working with a client, it's kind of easier to program in those heavy and those light weeks, because you know you're planning the program, and the client may come in and say, oh yeah, you know, I feel great, but you know, last week we did a heavy lift, so there's no need for us to go heavy again, otherwise we'll just kind of, yeah, we'll overtrain you and you'll burn out. So it's easier to manage when it's for somebody else, but I've noticed when it's for myself, I don't have that kind of that filter or that stop moment where I'm like, okay, 2 weeks ago I did it, so maybe I just look to maintain that. I'm always kind of looking to push up a little bit more, and it's unnecessary. Like I say, that deadlift session last week really did just put me in a knackered way. At first I didn't know why. I didn't know what happened, and then a light bulb moment happened. I was like, oh yeah, well, it's, you know, it's probably because you went heavy, and to be honest, my sleep wasn't great. There's a few things, but yeah, you shouldn't look to train to failure every strength session. Like I say, it increases injury. You need to give your muscles enough time to recover. I spoke in the last video about those micro tears. You know, you don't want to aggravate them too much, otherwise you get those tears get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you pull or tear a muscle, and that's where, you know, you get put out for a long time, of whether it's in the gym or any sport. So yeah, those were the three. Like I say, 69% of the people voted that was a lie, so well done to everybody there. It's going to become a little bit more challenging. It's going to become a little bit more different. I'd like to explore truths and lies within combat sports, within team sports, anything like that, that really kind of interests me. I'm hoping to get an opportunity to maybe speak to some other people, get some other people on, and have a little sit down and chat with them with regards to their perspective on these things. That would be really good. I've got a couple of colleagues that I'd like to do, and some people that I've seen online that I've reached out to. So over time, I'd like to turn this more from just me having a chat with whoever's on the other side of this to me having a chat with somebody else here, and whoever's on the other side of this is watching and listening and kind of taking it on board, because then it's going to be, for me, it's going to be very stimulating. I'll be able to learn a lot more. For those that watch, you'll be able to get a different perspective that's not just mine. So I think we all kind of win from that, which would be pretty cool. So yeah, over time, hopefully, I wouldn't really call it a podcast, more like a kind of, I wouldn't really call it an interview, more just kind of a sit down chat, hear their perspective on a couple of things, and go from there. So yeah, that is it for now. Thank you very much for watching. As always, if you enjoyed that, or if you found it to be interesting, or you want to learn more, or what have you, feel free to subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, TrainMore97. Trying to do one of these every week just to keep things ticking over, and then I'll bring more ideas that I can start recording with. But I think for now, this is a good platform to start with. So yeah, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful week. It is Tuesday today, but for the rest of the week, have a fantastic week. Hopefully see you all again soon.